Holy City Center Radio. It is episode 174, and I am your host, Christian Sanger. Today is Friday, September 22nd, 2023. Big show for you today. I can't waste any time. Interviews are back. So excited. It's been a long time, and since I switched over to this format of 3 days a week, I haven't had an interview, I don't think, all year, actually. So excited, and we've got a great one. So be sure to tune in for that. Sadly, with the writer's strike, writer and actor strike for that matter, my guest, I couldn't talk about some of the great things they both have done in their careers. And I'm not even sure. Now, look, I know no one, in Hollywood is going to be listening to this and going to get mad at me if I list a bunch of credits. But, I don't want to get them in any trouble either. You're not supposed to be talking about any current projects or anything. But you can easily go look up these things, of course. My guest first was comedian, actor, improviser, podcaster, and writer, a multi-hyphenate indeed. It is Paul F. Tompkins, a well-known comedian. If you ever spend time in LA, he's constantly doing different shows out there. And he has been, besides acting, as far as, what you traditionally think, he's also an incredible voice actor. And he is well known in the podcast world as he is involved in many comedic podcasts. So I was thrilled to have him on here. I've gotten to know his wife a little bit, Janie Haddad Tompkins. She is originally from this area. That's the connection. So I've met with her once for coffee. She was a delight, and so was Paul. So it was nice to chat with him, as well as Jordan Katz, who is a composer, band leader, and musician. His work has appeared in films, video games, and commercials. It's pretty incredible, the projects and the people he has worked with, and obviously that is a testament to his own talent. It's pretty great. He and Paul are coming to Charleston in November for a show called Varietopia with Paul F. Tompkins, a 21st century variety show. So he told me all about the show, what you guys can expect. It was a great time. The show is going to be on Friday, November 17th at the Music Farm. Starts at 7 p.m. Tickets are on sale now. I don't know if it's official by the time you guys are listening to this on Friday, but they did mention a second show was added. So be on the lookout for that. If that 7 p.m. show doesn't work for you, they will have another one. So happy to have interviews back. And again, I think it went pretty well. And it was certainly on my end, I had a great time. So outside of that, nothing really going on in Holy City Centerland that I'll be sharing on this episode, but I do want to say a early happy birthday to my nephew, Chase. His birthday is Saturday, and so I hope he has an amazing time. I know he's not exactly an avid listener to the podcast at his age, but sometimes my brother will play clips for him. So happy birthday, Chase. And although it's a few days away, a happy wedding anniversary to my parents. They were high school sweethearts, still married, still going strong. A great couple who I appreciate and did an amazing job of showing, whether they meant to or not. That's just because they're naturally good people. Demonstrated to my brother and I what a relationship should look like, how you should treat your partner, and work together. They were honestly model parents when it comes to, well, just about everything, but as far as emulating the type of person you should be, especially with your partner. So happy anniversary to them. I love you all very much. And looking forward to next time I will see you guys, which hopefully won't be too far away. All right, with that, let's get into the latest news. All right, an update on that F-35 plane that just up and went missing. You may remember from it being everywhere in the news or on the last podcast. Just quickly, there is an interview that has gone somewhat viral that WCBD News 2 did with a gentleman who lives out in Williamsburg County, where he talked about hearing the jet, and he does like an impression. I don't know if impression's the right word, of the noises he heard, and he puts all his effort into it, and it's fantastic. So you may have seen that. If not, a quick Google search, you'll be able to find it. But outside of that, as far as real details, things are still very much hush hush. Not only are we not getting any details about what happened at the accident, but the investigation and the work to collect the wreckage from that jet is very secretive as well. Now, of course, part of that safety, part of that is not wanting the general public to have access to a crash site where they may, take a souvenir, which would be not great. Of course, that's evidence for what may have happened. So I get they're going to block off roads and keep people away, but they're doing a stand-up job of that. Is there's really no details that local news, community members have really been able to get out of this situation. So officially, that plane is a F-35B Lightning II fighter jet. Of course, it crashed in rural South Carolina just a few days back after that accident on Sunday. It is now, let's see, on Friday when you're listening to this, I think technically it crashed on Sunday, but they didn't find it right away. So we're looking at 5-6 days of this recovery work. It's going to take a while based on a couple quotes I've seen. The plane is, not exactly in one piece. It is a pretty devastating crash. So it's going to take a while. And again, we get all that, but details that just have not been coming from really anybody. So that's really the only update we have on that at this time. But of course, I will keep you posted. Before we get into the interview, we have a couple more updates. First, a South Carolina grand jury back on September 12th returned an indictment on 4 charges for the woman accused of hitting a golf cart with her car, which ended up killing a woman and injuring 3 others while allegedly being intoxicated. Court documents that were filed on Wednesday, that's why we were just learning the news this week, not back when the indictment was returned. But those court documents show that the grand jury returned indictments for felony DUI resulting in death, 2 counts of felony DUI with great bodily injury, and reckless homicide against 25-year-old Jamie Lee Komorowski. Yes, this is that Folly Beach incident we've talked about several times. The charges stem from that April 28th crash on Folly Beach that killed Samantha Miller just hours after she had married her husband, Eric Hutchinson. He was one of the 3 other people that were on this golf cart type vehicle that were severely injured. Folly Beach police say Komorowski rear-ended a golf cart with those 4 occupants around 10 p.m. on April 28th in the 1200 block of East Ashley Avenue. Police also said that at the time of the crash, Komorowski was driving about 65 miles per hour. That area, if I remember correctly, is about 35 mile per hour, if not less, actually. A blood toxicology report showed that her blood alcohol level was 0.261 on the night of the crash. That is more than 3 times the legal limit in South Carolina. So no big surprise there. She's been in jail since the accident. We knew charges were coming, and the grand jury returned with those 4 very serious ones. We'll find out more details as far as when this is actually going to go to court. And of course, I will provide updates as they are available. Let's do a fun update. I mentioned this at the very end of the last podcast, but the Charleston RiverDogs were playing for the championship in the Carolina League for the 3rd straight year. They won game 1 against the Down East Wood Ducks, which is a great name. And game 2 was in Charleston, and it was on Tuesday night. I actually was able to go to the game, which I was excited about. Saw some familiar faces there. It was nice to say hi to some folks and just taking the game, and it was awesome. Such a great experience. The RiverDogs scored 7 runs in the first inning and then just held up the rest of the way, ultimately defeating the Wood Ducks by a score of 7-5. That's right. They made it close at the end. But the celebration was great. I was so happy to be there. RiverDogs officially claimed their 3rd consecutive league championship, which is actually the first time a team has achieved that feat in the Carolina League's history. So really cool that they made history for this league as well. The final out was a strikeout. It sparked a celebration on the field as well as in the stands. There was an estimated attendance of 5,314 people. It was pretty packed. I don't believe that's officially a sellout, but there was a lot of people there. And there was a lot of people also enjoying the dollar beers on that upper level. The line was insane. When I go to RiverDogs games, I like to be up in that area. I don't really like to sit in seats. I like to be in that kind of mezzanine area along the third base line because you can stand up there. You can kind of lean against the railing. They have some tables and stuff. I've always just enjoyed being up in that section versus being kind of squished in the seat, especially when we're talking about games in the middle of the summer in Charleston. And then there's also, of course, that area that's covered so you can get in the shade. But the line was stretching so long, and I'm like, these people aren't even paying attention to the game, which I know that's with minor league baseballs. That's a lot of what happens sometimes, but this was a big game and they're just sitting in line. They can't really see the field from there, but hey, whatever. I'm sure they all had fun. But in any event, I was happy to be there, seeing the players celebrate on the field. You know, they run to the mound and they're jumping around, and then they get T-shirts that say they won the championship, and they got the trophy, and they're taking photos. It was a really neat experience. I've been to tons of RiverDogs games and have had some really cool moments with the franchise. As far as like, I got to throw out the first pitch one game several years ago. I got to do the PA announcing a few years back, and I've just always enjoyed going to the games, and I've had a good relationship with the franchise over the years, as it relates to my site and everything. So it was cool because I missed the last two championships. You know, one of them, I believe one of them was on the road, so I wouldn't have seen the celebration anyway. But it was just a cool thing to witness, and the players were ecstatic. So congrats to the RiverDogs. Can they make it 4 straight? That would be incredible. But let's enjoy this 3rd straight championship, especially because the first half of the season, they were struggling. At one point, they were in last place, and they went from worst to first. They won the whole thing. Second half of the season, they were just lights out. It was incredible to see the scores and watch them dominate. So, again, just a big congrats to the champs. All right, another update. This is Alec Murdaugh. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but he pleaded guilty on Thursday to nearly 24 federal charges alleging he stole millions of dollars from his clients when he was their attorney. The hearing took place in the morning on Thursday. 10 a.m. is when it was set to start here in Charleston, actually, and it took place before U.S. District Judge Richard Guerrilla. That's really the gist of it right now. There'll be sentencing and things later on, as well as trying to figure out, that sentencing is probably going to involve recouping some of those losses. Where is that money going to come from? So there's still a lot to go with it, but that's really the gist of what took place on Thursday. One thing that made me I chuckled a little bit because it's just so tone deaf. Alec made some statement in court saying, or his lawyers did in his behalf. I forget which it was, but regardless, it was attributed to him, saying something along the lines of, "I just wanted to take responsibility for my actions." Okay, great. Great. I'm glad that you want to take responsibility and you're pleading guilty because you know you're guilty. You know you did wrong. And that's great. You're doing those for those financial crimes. But what about that double murder that you were found guilty of? Not really exactly taking responsibility for that. Now, I know he's maintained his innocence throughout, but it was just like, really, man, you're going to say, "Oh, I just want to take responsibility for this crime," but, not the other. So anyway, typical Murdaugh type behavior as we've come to expect it. And the last update, you may remember I talked about that communication tower that was built near the crosstown. People said it looks like toilet paper rolls, and it's really ugly, and it doesn't look good. I mean, I don't think anyone has come to the defense of this weird tower. Well, some funny and fun news related to it. A group of local artists decided to have some fun with that tower, and they have been broadcasting some images on the tower. So it's all white. And so it's perfect if you have like a projector, which these guys did have, and they're projecting images on this huge toilet paper looking tower. So what have they put up there? Well, keeping with the theme, they had a trio of dancing poop emojis. They also had the likeness of the great Cornholio, who you may remember from Beavis and Butthead. It's Beavis's alter ego in Mike Judge's MTV Classic series, amongst other things as well. So behind this display, again, is a group of local artists. They used a drone, a generator, and a $10,000 Sony projector, which is the Post and Courier said is the size of a leatherback sea turtle. And they used all that to just show how much they dislike that cell transmission tower that is owned by SBA Communications Corporation that appeared one day late last month along the Septima P. Clark Parkway. And as I mentioned, we all reference it as Crosstown, of course. So go read the whole story. You can see who these artists are. You can learn a little bit more about the tower, which we talked about in a previous episode. And it's just a fun piece. If you get the Post and Courier, if you have a subscription, I definitely recommend checking it out. All right, let's get into the interview. Like I said, so excited to talk to these guys. Paul F. Tompkins and Jordan Katz. They are two of the folks behind Varietopia with Paul F. Tompkins, a 21st century variety show that is coming to the Music Farm on Friday, November 17th. Tickets are on sale now at musicfarm.com. I already have tickets, so if you're going, let me know. Come say hi. I'm looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun. And what exactly is a 21st century variety show? Well, Tompkins and Katz tell me all about it. So excited to chat with them. Paul F. Tompkins is a comedian that I've been a fan of for years, and just become a bigger fan over him as time goes on. And I hear his voice in more and more shows, whether he is acting, whether he is doing voice acting, and I always love when he's a guest on podcasts and things. So it was a thrill to talk to both him and Jordan Katz, who I've just been learning about over the last few months. And like I said, it is incredibly impressive. Some of the people he's worked with, he's appeared on Grammy-winning albums. He has had his music be in films and video games, and not just any films or video games, ones that have sold well and are popular, and he had a hand in that, and he is also the band leader for this Varietopia show. So enjoy the interview. So excited to have them back on interviews in general, back on the podcast, and I was really happy that this was the first one because I really admire both of these gentlemen. So without any further ado, let's get into the interview. All right, so excited to have my two guests with me here today. I'm going to have each of them say hi real quick. First, he is an actor, a comedian, podcaster, writer, and all sorts of other things. It's Mr. Paul F. Tompkins. Thanks for joining me.
Christian, thank you for having me. I am Paul F. Tompkins. It's true.
Good. I want to make sure we got the right guy here, not an imposter. My other guest is a composer, musician. His work has appeared in films, video games, commercials, just so many things. It's quite impressive. Mr. Jordan Katz, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Christian. Thank you for having me. And this is my voice.
Good. Now that everybody knows who each of us are, we can dive right into it. So I'm so excited to have you both here. Thank you so much. And the main reason we're talking to you today is this show that is coming up at the Music Farm. It's Varietopia with Paul F. Tompkins. It's labeled as a 21st century variety show. It's going to be taking place Friday, November 17th. Again, at the Music Farm in downtown Charleston. Tickets are on sale now at musicfarm.com. So before we dive right into the show, Paul, right off the top, we have to talk about you have some ties to the Charleston area. You're quite familiar with this part of the country.
Indeed, I am. My wife, Janie Haddad Tompkins, she grew up on Sullivan's Island, and her mom still lives in Mount Pleasant. So I go with her and visit a few times a year.
Yeah, it's always exciting seeing you both posting. I'm like, oh, great. The Tompkins are here out on the beach or having fun in Charleston. It's always great seeing what you all are up to in town. And Jordan, I don't know. Forgive me. Do you have any ties to the Charleston area? Have you ever been here before?
I've been there several times. In fact, the first time I ever went on a music tour, I went on with a band called the Zen Tricksters. I was probably 19 years old. And Charleston was our first stop. It was a music club downtown. Probably more than 25 years ago. But that's the first time I was there. We played there a bunch of times, and I can't remember the name of the place. I'm really hoping that you're going to fill it in for me.
I'm trying to think if that long ago it may have closed. Things change here so often, but we have the Music Farm, the Music Hall. They like music in the title of our downtown venues.
Nope.
But I'm trying to think what else it would be in downtown, but it may have closed. There's just been so much change here over the years. But that's really great that you that first show was here in Charleston. I'm assuming you both enjoy coming here to the city and this area when you can.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, so now we've got this show that you have coming here. Can you tell me a little bit about the history behind Varietopia and how your partnership between you two began, whether it was with this show or somewhere else?
I'll take the second one first. Our association, as you put it, was through, I believe, Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think through the Thrilling Adventure Hour, right?
Yes, that was where our association began.
We've been associating ever since. When I first started doing this show, it was the very first one was called the Paul F. Tompkins Show. And it is a primitive version of what we do now. And that was at the when Largo was a tiny nightclub in West Hollywood, and it was I'd always wanted to do a variety show because I grew up watching variety shows, and there just weren't any around anymore. And I knew I wanted to do comedy and music and sketches and stuff like that. And I've been doing the show off and on over the years, and then decided to bring it back in 2021. And Jordan came on board as the musical director.
Up until
Very
then,
cool.
I was just the trumpet player in the band.
Yeah, I had Jordan in the band many times. And then with this new incarnation, I'd worked with Eben Schletter for many years, and he just wanted to focus on his own projects, which I think was a very smart thing for him to do. And then I asked Jordan, and Jordan immediately accepted, and it's been great ever since.
Very cool. So yeah, you've obviously been working together for a long time and have a friendship, and I'm sure have worked on other projects and crossed paths on things. So at this point, correct me if I'm wrong too. The show is mostly or totally new every time you travel to a new city. So you guys must have a lot of collaboration and working together and planning before each show about what's going to go into it.
Well, I'll let you in on a dirty little secret if Jordan thinks it's okay.
Uh-oh.
Okay. The road show is pretty much the same every time.
Ah, okay.
We do a new show in town here at home every other month, but the road show we use a lot of the same material because it's not recorded. People are, we're going from town to town, right. So it just makes things a lot easier. But I think that we haven't really discussed this, but it kind of feels like a natural thing to maybe do a new road show every year, so that we tour with that show while continuing to do new shows at home, so that when we go back to a place, they're seeing material they haven't seen before. But all this stuff will be all new to Charleston, I swear.
Oh no, I believe you. So for all those people who are going to tour around the country with you, like they're Fish fans or Grateful Dead fans, they're going to be seeing the same show. So
that's right.
Unfortunately, we ruined that for them. But no, I guess speak to that then. And in LA, when you're doing the show more often, obviously, or like you said, it may be recorded. It's frequently changing, and so Paul, obviously, you have a background in improv, and Jordan being a musician, I'm sure there's improvisation as well. So I would imagine, even obviously putting together a show is difficult, but with those backgrounds and having collaborated before, you must find yourselves when you have to create some new material or a sketch or whatever it may be, it must be fairly easy for you all to work together and come up with new material.
I think that it is. And I think what's funny is that it always, and Jordan can speak to his experience, but for me, it always feels like kind of a panic when it's a blank slate, when you're trying to think of what to do. And then once everything comes into place, once you have your ideas, then the fun begins of collaborating on musical arrangements and booking guests and things like that. But yeah, at first there's always terror, and then it's filled in by fun.
Yeah, I wake up in the weeks leading to the show. I wake up every morning with crushing anxiety about how I'm going to pull off the song that Paul's decided that he wants to do, or that I pitched to him. How I'm going to communicate to all the members of the band what to play, and that lasts right up to the morning of the show, when I wake up with crushing anxiety about the show actually being pulled off. And then the morning after the show, the anxiety starts about the next one. So it's pretty much just perpetual.
I know the
but Jordan, you choose to blame the show for this.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Yes, Varietopia.
That's tough putting it on the show, but I know the crushing anxiety, but for whatever, day-to-day life. But it's funny how something that can give you so much anxiety and worry is so enjoyable and worth it, once you get on stage and put it all together.
True.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the way that I was raised.
Just the show. So we've talked a little bit about it. Paul, you mentioned it's a mix of comedy and music, sketches. But more specifically, what can people expect from this type of show? Are they going to come in, sit down? I know the Music Farm sometimes has chairs, sometimes it's standing room. I don't know if you even know what the setup's going to be, but what's
we're going to have both, actually.
Like? Both. Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah. We got a great, without giving anything away, we have a great smaller touring band, 4-piece band, and we have special guests that'll be we'll be bringing with us from LA, and basically it's just like we never give details ahead of time for any of the shows, who's going to be there, what the material we're going to do is, because we want it to be a surprise every time. But what I can assure people is that this is not like a retro show, it's not like it's very modern. We're speaking as modern people. People are dressed as modern people. I mean, apart from me, I guess, but it's not like, Rat Pack night or something,
Right.
no offense to no shade on that, but that's not what we're doing. We're what our goal always is to make the show as contemporary as possible, because there's nothing wrong with the form. It's like, it's still, the form of variety is still the same elements of various types of entertainment all under one umbrella. And that's what we're trying to do with people from today.
And the music that we try and choose, Paul put it great when we were starting to put the show together, is modern classic. We try and choose modern classic songs to perform to.
Yeah, I think that's great, and yeah, I think that's a great way to describe the show without giving away any secrets. But I think sometimes people see variety show and not exactly sure what to expect. So I think that's a great explanation without giving away any of the material or anything that's going to be on stage that evening. And although you mentioned this is more contemporary version, what is it about the variety show, I guess, concept or a medium that appeals to each of you?
For me, it's just, I loved it when I was a kid, and I would watch, shows like the Donnie and Marie show or Sonny and Cher, like these shows that would just have anything on there. This is in the glorious 3-channel days, and those shows introduced me to so many different entertainers that I came to love, but also introduced me to things like, Mummenschans, who were these terrifying German mimes who would do. I don't think they were intentionally terrifying, but they would do this really absurdist kind of stuff that both frightened me and fascinated me as a kid. And my goal is to bring that kind of variety to people now, and just always looking for things that are interesting and fun. And I don't know, just having it all in one place is so exciting to me.
What about you, Jordan?
I mean, I also grew up loving it, but a different kind of variety show. I love the late night variety shows. The band leaders. I'm a trumpet player. Doc Severinsen was my idol since I was a little kid. I love Jack Sheldon and the way he led his band on late night. Like that was some of my favorite things to watch. when I was a kid.
And Jordan, I mentioned earlier your credits include, work on films, video games, commercials, albums. How does planning, creating, and taking part in a live variety show, how is it different compared to your other types of work?
Well, there's a lot of prep involved, but I would say versatility. There could be any type of music thrown at us in this kind of variety. It's a variety. You know what I mean?
I do.
Versatility.
Sure, Jordan. A little less threatening.
That's what Doc Severinsen taught me. I think it's versatility.
One of my favorite kind of variety clips of all time is They Might Be Giants on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, I think. Or no, might have been Jay Leno guest hosting, but it was still Johnny's band. And to see these guys play with, obviously these are seasoned musicians who've been around for a long time, to play with these weirdos. And you can see various expressions on their faces as they go through. And some of the guys are intrigued by it. Some of the guys are like, what are we doing? But my favorite is the drummer, Ed O'Shaughnessy. Was that his name?
Without the O.
Ed Shaughnessy. And
Yep.
he is just like, this is probably the fastest he's played in a while for the show. And it's they do Birdhouse in Your Soul, and it's great. It's a great clip, and I highly recommend checking that out. It's really fun to watch.
Definitely going to check that out. It's great that you've both have mentioned, like talk shows, because in a way, a variety show and talk show, late night talk show are similar in some ways. So I would imagine that's kind of what folks can expect. Paul, I would imagine you're kind of serving as host, and you have the band there and everything, and obviously not exactly the same, but kind of that late night comedy show vibe, I would imagine.
Yeah, it is. I will do a monologue. I'm doing stand up again. And I'll be, I will be hosting the whole evening and participating here and there and things. And it's going to be like a great mix of moments.
Perfect. A variety of moments, I would imagine.
A variety of moments.
It's right there in the title for everybody. I mean,
I'm trying to make it easy.
I know. And here I am hounding you with questions. What exactly is the variety you speak of? No, I already have, when I heard you were coming, I bought tickets to the show. I'm excited to check it out. And, and even hearing more about it from both of you, I'm sure not just myself, but others will be excited to check it out as well. It's, here in Charleston, we have the standard touring acts that come through and things, but something like this, like you mentioned earlier, Paul, there isn't really a variety show out there. I mean, there are some, I'm sure, especially, in certain cities, they may have, like you do in LA, a monthly show or something, but around here, we don't have a ton of that. So it's going to be something different, that people aren't used to, which I think is exciting for folks. And, I'm sure everybody will enjoy it as well. When you go into other towns, other cities, what is I don't know how many shows you've done recently, but what has the reception been like? Do you like traveling and doing these live shows in other cities, or is traveling kind of a burden?
No, I love it. I mean, I'm used to travel from stand up. Jordan's used to it from touring with bands, and to be doing it with this show is very special to me. And the response from the towns that we've been to has been really, honestly, overwhelming. Like people have been, the vibe has been so good, and the crowds have been so great. And we kind of treated this as an experiment. We were talking about it when we were talking about it last year, about doing it in other places and how we would do it. There's a lot of planning that went into it. And to have it pay off in such a wonderful way, it's like it's worked beyond my wildest expectations.
What about you, Jordan? What's your experience on the road with the show been? Similar, I'm assuming?
I've never been part of a show that has brought so much consistent joy to the people that we're bringing it to. I mean, the response that we get and the way that people appreciate Varietopia is really it's humbling, and it's a wonderful thing to be a part of.
That's amazing. Glad to hear that. And again, just making me even more excited to see the show. Again, it's Friday, November 17th. Tickets are on sale at musicfarm.com. It's a Friday night. It's not a school night, so there's no excuse. It's a 7 p.m. show. It's not late. Everybody can go to it. It should be a blast. I could talk to you both for a long, long time about your careers and things. And I know this is kind of a weird time about that, so we can't really get into it, but I also don't want to take up too much more of your time. So is there anything else related to this show or just anything that you would like to talk about, to the listeners here ahead of your performance?
I have a few podcasts I would like to mention.
Please.
There's a podcast I co-host with Nicole Parker called The Neighborhood Listen, which is a podcast where we take next door posts and we improvise in character in a fictional town called Dignity Falls. That's been so much fun to do. We're about to start recording our 5th season. And then, of course, I do a podcast with my wife, Janie, called Stay F. Tompkins, which we started during quarantine, and we've continued to do it. We do it once a month, and we have a Substack where you can get bonus content for subscribing and all that. So those are two things that are thankfully strike immune that I can talk about and that people can find. We don't have a home for The Neighborhood Listen yet. It was on Stitcher, but that just shut down. But we will be getting all of our episode masters back, and we will be putting them up for free at some point, depending on as soon as we get the RSS feedback.
And I'm sure folks can, whether it's social media, your website, when that happens, they'll be able to get that information from those platforms.
Absolutely.
And Jordan, before you mention anything that you would like to plug as well, Paul, I just wanted to say that what's great about the Stay F. Hopkins podcast for those listening, not only is it just a fun and great podcast with you and your wife, you're almost like sitting at the dining room table with you guys as you're joking and talking about your day and your life and your careers. But there's also talk about Charleston frequently. So that for anybody listening to this podcast, hey, there's a lot of Charleston mentions. They talk about, for instance, Paul, your favorite show, Southern Charm, all the time, and how much you adore it and how you love all of those folks. And
I love all of them equally.
Couldn't possibly choose a favorite person or episode.
Nope.
and Jordan, is there anything that you would like to say or plug or anything else that's going on?
First, I'd like to say that Cumberland's was the name of the first place that I played in Charleston.
Yes.
No longer open, but I do know what you're talking about.
Also, the Poorhouse I've been through several times.
Yes,
but,
that is still here and kicking.
I guess the most important thing that I would like to plug is a newly added 9 p.m. show at the Music Farm for Varietopia that should be on sale by the time this podcast airs. We just added a 9 p.m. show, a second show to this Varietopia run on the 17th.
Fantastic. Got breaking news here. So that's fantastic. I love it. Yeah. So 2 shows now, both on the 17th, 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. If tickets aren't on sale when you hear this, they will be shortly, as Jordan just said. But that's awesome. So obviously we're planning on, at least those 2 shows, and hopefully a lot of folks will come on out and see it. I'm looking forward to it. And I thank you both so much for joining me. It was honestly a pleasure and a lot of fun, and I really, really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Christian.
That'll do it. I hope you enjoyed the interview. I hope you get tickets to Varietopia. Should be a blast. Thank you again to Paul and Jordan for joining the podcast. I hope this bigger episode with a fun interview makes up for not having a show this past Monday. And I appreciate you all listening. If you want to rate and review this podcast, that would be a big help to me. Also subscribe. That helps, as well as make sure you don't miss any more episodes. It comes out every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you're not subscribing, it's so easy to miss out on some of the most recent news here in the Charleston area. If you also want to support Holy City Center in general, not just the podcast, by doing those things, you can go to holycitycenter.com/shop to pick up some merchandise, or you can head over to patreon.com/holycitycenter to sign up for one of those support tiers. I also need to thank the incredible Lindsay Marie Collins with LMC Sound System for editing each and every episode and helping me get things set up for the interview and always being available to help with some technical things when I need them with the podcast. So thank you to her. And also the incredible Tyler Boone. His music is in every single episode of Holy City Center Radio. He's also doing some great things. As I've mentioned previously, you can invest in Boone's Bourbon, which he created. He's also going to be in town for his local festival, Holy City Homegrown Festival, which will be held at the Refinery. Tickets are still on sale for that as well. And with that, I wish you all a great weekend. I will talk to you on Monday. But until then, good night and good luck.